really what it has come to be, it started out with the food pantries, but it has come to be meeting the literacy needs throughout the community in so many different places in the community. You know, the WIC program, early Head Start, the pre-K programs, community events. We give out books through community events. It's just really everywhere. We get libraries to Crossroads for Women, which is a rehab program for moms. We now, if there should be a fire and a family loses all their children's books, we will replace all their children's books. So that's another aspect of what we do in the community. I'm happy to say we're giving out my book, Please Read to Me, through the WIC program and through some of the main hospitals. So that is very exciting. And what else? It feels like a lot. Oh, well, the new project that's about to launch is the Book Angel Readers for Seniors, which is in my mom's memory. I used to read to her when she would be in rehab, which was quite a number of times. And it gave me the idea that this is something that we need to have for residents of facilities where they're being cared for. There's a ton of evidence that shows how beneficial it is to have people come in and read to people who are in care. So I'm very excited to get that going in our community and to just get it spread, you know, statewide, nationwide, worldwide, as with all our programs. And let's see what else. It seems so busy all the time. The biggest thing I'm really working on is trying to get other book fairies in other communities, because there is no shortage of gently used available children's books. There is no reason for there to ever be a child anywhere who doesn't have at least 20 books in their home. The shortage is of book fairies, is of people who are as passionate about this as I am, to want to take this up in their community and make it happen, which making it happen is really just about distribution, about getting people, you know, you can hold book drives so that young people can donate their outgrown books to other children who have no books, and then connecting with all of the agencies in the community who have the opportunity to give books to children. And then that's all that really needs to happen. So I'm kind of targeting retired teachers, retired librarians, people that already have a passion for literacy, because we know that what it takes is for children to have books in their home in the first 5 years of their life, that they start learning to read the day they're born, not the day they start school. By the day they start school, they've already missed the major opportunity to build a strong foundation. And then it's so much more work. They don't get to read easily and to learn to read easily and joyfully, which is what we want for children. And we know that if children aren't reading on grade level by fourth grade, you know, from kindergarten to third grade, they're learning to read. But by fourth grade, they're reading to learn. And if they haven't done that, if they leave school without being proficient at reading, it is going to affect their standard of living and their quality of life forever. So we have that opportunity in those first 5 years to support parents in making sure they have books in their homes. And it's such an easy thing to do and a fun thing to do, a really fun thing to do. People love you when you give them books, you know, it's really a fun thing to do. So I think my focus going forward is going to be how to best enroll people in this project, in having it be this in their hometown, in their city, and getting as many people as we can to want to see children thrive, because children without books can't read. And if they can't read, they can't thrive. So it's really essential, not just from a standpoint of literacy, but their whole health. You know, when they can't read prescription bottles, they can't read recipes or menus or bus signs. It's, you know, it's very limiting to what kind of quality of life they can have if they're unable to read. And it can be a way for parents to be connected to their children. The libraries that I make up for the moms that are going to be going home from rehab to be with their children, it's a way for them to reconnect with their children, because as soon as you're reading a book together, you're connected. So it's really such a double bonus. I mean, you're addressing building their foundation for literacy, and you're creating a lifelong way to connect with your children. You know, they come home from school, all it takes is to sit down and have one story and you've reconnected. If you're traveling and things get stressful, you just sit down and read a story and you can re-regulate and reconnect. So it's really a benefit that we can't afford to be without. No family can afford to be without. And making sure they have books is really, really easy. I didn't know how easy it was going to be when I started this project 6 years ago. I never dreamed it could be this easy. I thought it was going to be hard, but it's not. There's so many books out there, and there really are a lot of people who care and who want to see children thrive and flourish. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So, in addition to building their foundation for literacy, which is key, the other benefits are so many. You know, it doesn't only matter that we read to children, it matters what we read to them. And children can learn about empathy and compassion and activism and caring for the earth, and every value we want to instill in our children can be promoted by the stories that we read to them. And when children know, when we take the time to sit and read with them, that's, that is connection time. They know they're important. And, parents, I've been telling parents this a lot this summer, parents are tired at night. This past 2 years has just been exhausting, beyond exhausting for parents. And they want to do the right thing by their children. They know it's good for them to read to them at bedtime. It's such a great way to close the day. So what I'm suggesting to them is that in the morning, have their children, while you're making breakfast, pick out books that they want to hear that day. So whatever number you agree to, 5, 8, however many it is, and put them in a bag and take them with you in the car all day. And whenever you get a little pocket of time, read one of them, so that hopefully by the end of the day, when it's bedtime, there might only be 1 or 2 books left in the bag that haven't been read. And you get to seal the day with that good night closeness and connection, and you're done. And the exhausted parent can say good night and, do their next thing. So it really can be doable. It can be doable. And that's what children need from us. They need that connection. They need that closeness. They need that language foundation. And children hear so many words, more words from books than they do in conversation. One of my favorite resources is the book The Enchanted Hour by Megan Cox Gurdon. I mean, I have it on audiobook and I have listened to it, I bet at least a dozen times. And every time I hear something I didn't hear before. And she absolutely, and she is herself a read-aloud mom of 5 children. So she not only knows this academically, she knows it from her own experience. And she just, outlines all the benefits that children receive and that we receive by reading aloud to them, and to seniors, that there's no age limit. It's never too early to start reading and it's never too late to read. And so it's just a great opportunity for people who want to do something in the community that will make a difference for all ages. And I'm excited to find more and more ways. And one of the funny things that has happened over the last 6 years, as I've created community partners and gotten to know people in the community that I need to work with, I always find out, what their ages of their children are and what do they love. And so when donations come in, I will say, oh, their little boy would love this book. So the next time I make a delivery there, I'll say, oh, and this one is for your son. And people remember that and it's meaningful to them. So they go home that night with a great way to connect with their child. So the next time I need something, I say, can you do this for me? Or could we do this? What they have in mind is how much it meant that their child got a book. And so I just always make sure that I do that and create that relationship, because how much Book Fairy has grown in the last 6 years is completely to do with the relationships that have been created in the community. When it came up to give out my book free through the WIC program statewide, if I didn't have all those relationships in place that had been built over the last 6 years, I don't know how I would have distributed those books or even gotten WIC on board to say, yes, we'll do this. It's been completely about creating relationships where you can help people help other people. And they love it. They absolutely love it. And I love it. So what Book Fairy is really about is answering the call. Every time I hear a call for something that is needed, I try to meet that need. And so really what needs to happen in our communities, in our world, is we need to step up and start answering the call. Start answering the call to what is needed. You know, children need to be connected to their parents. Children need to start school already with a strong base of vocabulary and understanding of language. And so how do we do that? And really my favorite way that we do that, I figured out early on. I would do an event, and I think I said this in one other interview we did, that, you know, two kinds of children would come by my table. The one who would say, "Dad, look, it's Goodnight Moon." And you knew from the recognition that this is a child that's being read to. And then other children would come by and I'd say, "Free books." And they'd be like, "No, thanks." And there was no magic in the books for them. They weren't delighted to see them because they didn't have any experience with them. And so I don't really know what made me think of it. There is a program, Kohl's store, department store, has a program where they have books and matching stuffies. But that really wasn't what inspired it. I kind of discovered that after the fact. But I started matching mostly Beanie Babies, but sometimes it's a little toy, to the cover of the book. So if the cover of the book had a dinosaur on it, then I would put it in a Ziploc bag with a dinosaur. And suddenly the book is relevant to the child. I'm holding a dinosaur in my hand. Oh, there's dinosaurs inside this book. And so what we really do is supply the magic. So I have been making these, especially this summer at all the events this summer, and, you know, giving them out. And children are wild for them. They absolutely love them because, you know, they're getting a new Beanie Baby and it's about the theme. And I did it when I was a volunteer reader with the first graders at the school I volunteer at. They would bring books that they needed to read to me, and I was invited to bring a book that I could read to them. And I would always bring a story bag. And this one in particular was about a little cat named Mittens, and it was playing with this red ball of yarn on the front. Well, I found a beanie cat that exactly matched that kitten on the cover of the book. So what I brought was the kitten in the book and the little girl. So the child got to play with the toy while I read them the story. And I knew it was effective, that their reading comprehension was right on it, because they would be having the little kitty do what I was reading. So if I say he jumped in the air, they would throw the cat up in the air. And this little girl said to me, "But where's the red ball of yarn?" And I said, "It will be here next week." So they really got it. They really got that that's what we were doing, is making the story come alive by accessorizing it, by having props. And so now, I mean, I just make those bags up as fast as I can make them. And, you know, we get beanies donated. And it was new to me that you can thoroughly wash and dry them and they come out beautiful and clean and like new. And so then I feel safe about giving them out and just matching them with books. And like I said, it's not always a beanie. Sometimes it's a little vinyl toy or a little boat or a little plane or something, but something tangible for them for it to create an interest in that book for them. That's supplying the magic. So there's so many levels of how we can do this. One is just giving them books. That's for starters. But then we can take it up a notch. And then people will say to me, "Well, what about parents who really can't read to their children? What good is it to give books to them?" And just the books being in the home, even if children can't read them and their parents can't read them to them, they will flip through them and look at them. And I teach a thing called story sharing, where I teach parents to go page by page through the book and just talk with the child about the pictures in the book. So they're sharing that story. There's a formal name for it. It's called dialogic reading, which essentially means having a dialogue about what you're reading, about the pictures in the book. So even parents who can't read can still share books with their children. Or maybe they don't read English, or they don't have books in their language. They can still share books with children. And it's about the time that you spend, you know, saying, "Well, where do you think that little dog's going to go?" And, you know, the back and forth, the conversation that happens. So it's possible for everyone to share books with children. Yeah, it's really exciting. Um, But the other thing I'm excited about, I'm filling out the paperwork now. I have to do a volunteer training in order to be able to go back into the prison where I used to teach. I was at the county jail, and they're still not having volunteers come in, but it's looking like it may open up for us to be able to go back into the prison and support parents, because the illiteracy rate in prisons is like between 60 and 70%. It's really high. And so to have the opportunity to, both give the parents books that they can send home to their children, but also show them story sharing and how they can share books with their children, even if their literacy level is very low. So that's a project I am very excited about, because I want to reach every part of our community and support them with whatever their literacy needs are. That's really the goal, is to just be everywhere. So I've been sort of joking about our tree of literacy keeps growing new branches, because I keep answering the call of whatever need presents itself. And so I've been getting books for the Latin community in Portland. I didn't realize it was as big as it is. And so we get multilingual books donated and multicultural books, much more than ever before. So that's really positive. And the frustrating thing is, many of the parents in the Latin community, it isn't just that the books aren't in English, is that they too are not literate. So even if the books are in Spanish, they still can't access them. So they too need the story sharing lessons and how to do that. So my goal is just to come up with an answer for every need that presents itself. And so far it's working. It's really working. So, and the more and more, people know of what I'm doing, they'll say, well, why don't you talk to Book Fairy about that? I bet she can help you with that. And I love a new challenge. I'll be like, oh, how will we solve that? And we figure out a way to do it. It's really fun. Love it.